Hello YouTube, and welcome to what I hope will be one of the easiest and at the same time most in-depth guides on how to play Shaddolls that you will come across on YouTube at least. I am not the greatest of Shaddoll players. I personally don't even play the deck in real life, but I know a thing or two. I enjoy it. I like playing it online. Hopefully you can get sort of a basic idea of how to run the deck, and I'll go over a few things that I feel that are necessary to know about Shaddolls. So I'm going to divide this into 3 parts, and it will begin with part 1, and I'll do a little explanation for each monster. I'll explain their effects, certain technicalities, certain rulings perhaps, and I'll just go over perhaps as well how many you might want to consider running. So just essentially give you a quick rundown of all the monsters, what they do, what you want to look out for if you're playing against them. Just that sort of thing. Hopefully that'll be sufficient enough to at least get a good grasp of the main deck. Part 2, I'm gonna do kind of a couple of deck profiles, at least of recent tops and such. Not really, to just say, hey, go play this, but give you a small idea of what kind of build you want to play around with. Give you a kind of a small template to kind of net deck. Sort of just copy it, work it off afterwards yourself, play it online, test it, see what you like, see what you don't like. Just kind of play about with it yourself. I'll also go over some tech choices. I'll discuss some cards which I feel are good to run in the deck, some cards which, while you're there sort of building your own Shaddoll deck, I'll mention some cards which I feel that you might want to include. I might not necessarily agree with all of them. I might not think that they are particularly great cards, but they do have some synergy with the deck, so I'll suggest as many sort of kind of tech choices I can, so you can just get a bit of a sort of idea, and you can try it yourself, fiddle around with it, see if you like it or not. And part 3, I'm going to do side decking as well, sort of just a general overview of the extra deck, kind of outside of the main deck. I'm going to talk about all sort of different synchros and Xyz you might want to play. Side deck as well, I'll talk about what you want to run as a Shaddoll player in your side deck, what kind of things you want to put in, what kind of things you want to look out for when you're playing against other people who side deck against you. So I'm going to talk about all kinds of different, the floodgates and anything that's sort of dangerous to you as a Shaddoll player, and what you want to look out for, how you can maybe counter side, and just keep this in mind while you're building your side deck and such. And so without further ado, I'm going to try to keep this as concise as possible, so please bear with me. Let's begin with part 1. So the way Shaddoll works are very simple. They function by being sent to the graveyard through effects, keyword effects, not costs. And they also have a flip effect that triggers whenever they flip either through battle, or flip summon, or some kind of effect, such as the trap cards in the deck, Shadow Games. Now, so let's begin, and bear in mind, this will only include the Tcg Monsters, by the way, so unfortunately I won't be going over things like Shaddoll Hound, or Shaddoll Shekinaga, or Shaddoll Ergistal, but hopefully for a future video. But anyway, now monster number 1 will begin with Shaddoll Beast. We'll start with the main deck. Again, remember, each Shaddoll monster has 2 effects, a flip and a send. Just remember those 2 words, flip and send. And you can only use one of them per turn. So you can't flip and then send the same monster from your deck to the graveyard and get the send effect. So you have to choose one per turn. So remember this when you're playing against Shaddoll players who might try to abuse this, or perhaps of your own ignorance or cheating, you might try to use 2 effects in one turn. So it's important to remember you can only use one. Now, Shaddoll Beast has a flip effect where you get to draw 2 cards, then discard 1 card. The discard effect of Beast is an effect, not a cost, so it means whatever you pitch out of your hand with a Shaddoll, whatever Shaddoll you pitch out of your hand, it will trigger in the graveyard as a send effect. Beast's send effect is that you get to draw a card, so whenever you send Shaddoll Beast from your deck to the graveyard, you simply draw a card. A typical combo would be using the fusion, Shaddoll Fusion. You send Falco and Beast. Falco summons itself to the field, and Beast lets you draw a card. But I'll go into more detail of that later. Now that explanation was a little wordy, I apologize for that, but I just want to make some rulings and stuff really clear for you to understand that things like costs don't work with Shaddolls. They need to be effects only. But again, just bear in mind all these monsters, every Shaddoll monster, they have a flip and a send effect. Beast draws 2 and discards 1 when flipped, and he draws 1 sent. Simple. Now, Shaddoll Dragon. Dragon bounces any card on your opponent's side of the field when it's flipped face up. When Dragon hits the grave, he pops one of the back row. Now, also remember, Dragon has a huge attack, 1900. It's really, really big for a normal summon. So use this to your advantage when playing against decks that have a weak normal summon. Next, Shaddoll Skomata. This destroys any monster on the field when flip face up. So when Skomata is sent to the graveyard, you can send another Shaddoll from your deck to the graveyard. Now, one of the best things you can do as a Shaddoll player is learn to manage your resources. Sending all your cards to the graveyard from your deck just to trigger all these cool effects, you know, it's nice, but you need to learn to manage your resources. You can really, really grind yourself out very quickly with this deck, especially by abusing Skomata. Many new players abuse Skomata too much, and you know, they find themselves either decking out completely of monsters and only having back row to draw. So when you're learning to play this deck, it's important to manage your resources carefully and not to go too crazy with all the effects every turn. And the next monster is Hedgehog. This is essentially Rota, your Stratos for the deck. When he's flipped, he basically searches any Shaddoll spell or trap. So there will be more coming out, but currently he searches Shaddoll Fusion or Shaddoll Core. Do bear in mind that Shaddoll Core, sorry, not Core, Sinister Shadow Games is not a Shaddoll card. So when Hedgehog is flipped up, you cannot search Shadow Games, which is arguably the best card in the deck, but yeah, so Hedgehog will get you to your Fusion, which is basically your most important card of the deck, at least. And now when you send him to the graveyard, you get to add any Shaddoll monster from your hand, from your deck to your hand. A typical play would be sending Hedgehog and adding Dragon or Lizard, sorry. So you can set it and get over any problem monsters that are on the field. Your biggest problem monster that you'll encounter playing Shaddolls is probably Ophion. So you send Hedgehog to the graveyard, search out Lizard or Dragon, set it for next turn. And then when any of those are flipped, they're going to either bounce or pop Ophion. Another play would be, for example, adding Beast, so you can set a dead Hedgehog in the field that's been flipped and isn't doing much as a 300 beat stick. So you contribute set over it and such. Just kind of a couple plays, ideas for you to consider when you're using your Hedgehog. So for the final main deck monster, we've got Falco, and arguably one of the best Shaddoll monsters. So when Falco is flipped up, you can special summon any Shaddoll from your graveyard and face down defense. Now it's important to understand that that includes even your extra deck Shaddoll, so you can summon Winda and Construct with Falco. And when Falco is sent to the graveyard by an effect, you get to summon him onto the field in face down defense. So he kind of replaces himself. It's a great floating card, and he's also a level 2 tuner, by the way, so this gives you access to a lot of powerful synchro plays. Typically level 6, a couple of good level 7 plays with Beast, and of course if you're using Mind Control, there's great plays with that. But I'll go over tech cards and stuff later, of course. Now that's all the main deck monsters. It's gonna take a couple games to memorize them all, but it's not too difficult. Just remember one effect and only one effect per turn, a flip effect or a send effect. That's all you need to remember. So for the extra deck monsters, Shaddolls are still very early in their inception, so we currently only have 2, and those are Winda and Construct. You want to run at least 2 of each, maybe just 1 Construct, but 2 of each at least is a very, very good number. So, Construct, upon summon, she's a Foolish Burial, so as soon as you summon her, you can send a Shaddoll. Typically, you might want to send a Dragon to pop a back row. Perhaps send a Falcon, whatever, but on summon, Construct will be a Foolish Burial for you. Now the best effect of Construct is she is basically a Catastor for special summoned monsters. So whenever you attack a monster, if it was a special summon monster, you will instantly destroy it before the damage step. So they don't take any damage, but you will instantly destroy them. So if you want to bump heads with something like Felgrand, you can get over it just by attacking into it. Any other 2800 monster as well, like Blaster, the Dragon Ruler, if you attack it, you're not going to crash. It's just going to instantly destroy it. Sometimes that can be a bit of a pain if they special summon weak monsters. So you attack like a special summoned, I don't know, 1200 guy. You attack it. They're not going to take 16. They're just going to blow up. So Winda is the other one, and oh, actually, but just quickly before I move on to Winda, the materials for creating Construct, you need to fuse her with any Shaddoll and a light monster. So typically you send light monsters from the graveyard. I'll go over what light monsters you want to run in the next part, but the materials for Construct is light, which makes it a little bit awkward sometimes, but you can run Construct very easily, of course. So the light fusion material shouldn't be too much of an issue. And now Winda, anyway, she's a continuous effect that's unstoppable by Shadow Mirror, and these effects are she can't be destroyed by effects. So torrential, bottomless, that doesn't work on Winda. On top of that, both players can only special summon once per turn. I know, right? But anyway, so one thing all the Shaddoll fusion monsters have in common is that whenever they hit the graveyard, so even as a synchro material, an Xyz material, or even a fusion material, you can add one Shaddoll fusion from your graveyard to your hand. So you fuse, you make your Shaddoll, and then you can get it back into your hand. So they recycle themselves really well, which is why the deck has proven to be so good, because of how well they can float. So a good way to get over the constant Construct or Winda spam Shaddolls can do is essentially get rid of their boss monsters without letting them hit the graveyard. So you want to send Winda or Construct to the hand with things like Compulsory Evacuation Device, Phoenix Wind Blast. You want to banish them as well, perhaps with Deprison, Karma Cut. Just cards that get rid of monsters without destroying them and sending them to the graveyard. That's the best way to sort of cut off their boss monster and getting rid of this huge field presence that they can put up with just a single fusion. Also, just quickly, a couple of other extra deck monsters you want to run. You can run a Star Eater if you want to run Core, Shaddoll Core, the trap card. The option is there. You don't need to like it or agree with it. I'm just saying, Star Eater is very easy to make with Core and Falco. You can run Black Rose, Arcanite Magician. They tend to be very staple for the 7s. You can easily make level 7 with Falco and Beast. So nuke the field, pop 2 cards. Probably the best options for the level 7s. I can't really think of anything else you'd really want to include. Ancient Sacred Wyvern, not really that great. Extra deck space is tight because of how many different levels and ranks and etc. you can get access to. For the 6s, you want to run Goyo Guardian. Psyhemoth is also another option. For 5s, Synchro, you want to perhaps run, well, not perhaps, I would highly recommend Armades as a staple. If you can find space, then Catastar is also a really good option. For the also on your 10s, you can maybe even put in a Leo, because you can make Falcon and Construct together to create Leo, and Leo is pretty problematic for a lot of decks, so and you can make them very, very easily. You can also run a couple of Xyzs. You don't want to run too many Xyzs, in fact, probably just a handful. But it kind of depends on what variant you're playing, so you can run more or less depending on what type of Shaddolls you're running. But in the pure version, you want to run only like 2, maybe 3. So some of these could be Exoton, Honor Arc, Castell, Lavavel Chain, and even Daigusta Emerald if you want to recycle your dolls. So this is what I would consider a very standard Baby Chaos Dragon variant. This is the deck belonging to Zach Perkins, recently topped the ARG Atlantic City event. So this is his build. This is the Baby Chaos Dragon build. If you want to take a look at this, see if you like it. As you can see, he's running things like Felice and Super Poly in the main, so you can instant level 7s. He's got Vanities. Only 2 Shadow Games though, which I personally really disagree with. The deck also seems to be very monster cloggy, so you know, there is that as well. There is Dad as well, which can be dead. But this is his build. I don't take credit for this. So this is just something for you to look at. This is kind of like, you know, sort of a basic variant. Feel free to use this, of course. This build belongs to my friend Danny Cairns. This is what he took to London and won the Brotherhood Open with. Joint first, second, whatever. And this is his Shaddoll artifact variant. So you can see the difference between the Baby Chaos Dragon version and the artifact variant. Again, feel free to try this out, see how you like it, change a couple things up. So yeah, feel free to just pause the video and you know, look up all the cards individually as you see fit. So I'm just going to quickly go over a couple of tech choices, tell you a couple of cards that you want to run, maybe multiples of, or you know, a couple of, etc., just to give you, you know, an idea of what kind of cards you might want to include. I'm sure there's so many I've missed, but these are a few here. So for the first two, you've got the Baby Chaos Dragons. These special summon by banishing one dark from your graveyard. Now, the good thing about Shadolls is that you don't actually need the graveyard once your monsters hit the graveyard. So when a Shaddoll hits the graveyard, chances are it's going to stay there, and you're probably never going to bring it back because you send so many each turn that even for your Falcon targets, obviously don't banish the important ones you want to bring back, like, you know, maybe Beast and such, but generally you're more than okay to like banish a couple of them to special summon the baby dragons. You know, and the baby dragons are really good. You know, they're so expendable. They search each other out. You can Xyz with them, make some really good rank 4 plays. It's just a really good engine to run. So, and also you've got your Collapse Serpent and your Wyver Buster as light and dark targets if you want to use them as fusion materials instead of special summoning them. So it's good to get rid of dead hands as well. You've also got, for another tech choice perhaps, Exodia, the Ultimate Forbidden Lord. So the only way you can special summon him is by shuffling all monsters in your graveyard into the deck, and he gains a certain amount of attack for each normal monster, but you don't run any normal monsters. The reason you would tech this in is because it's actually kind of good in the grind. You go through your resources really fast, so summon this guy and all your monsters are, you know, put back into the deck. Even if you get Solemn Warning or whatever, it's really not a big deal because, you know, you still need to pay the cost of summoning him, which is shuffling everything into the deck. I believe that's a cost anyway. So yeah, Exodia is a good way to add some longevity to your deck. You can run Armageddon Knight. You generally want to choose, you know, do you want to run Armageddon Knight or Mathematician? Personally prefer Mathematician, but Armageddon Knight is he's level 4, which is also a good advantage because he kind of goes well with the baby dragons. You can overlay with him. So you just summon him, send a dark to the graveyard. You know, trigger some effects. You might maybe want to consider running Rota as well. I personally don't feel like that's necessary, but you know, Rota and Armageddon Knight is, you know, that you could fiddle about with that. You could include that. See if you know that's the kind of thing you want to run in your deck. Mathematician I personally prefer because, you know, he floats more. You can draw a card off him when he goes, and I'd rather make a level 5 than a level 6 currently in the meta. So that's why I prefer him over Armageddon Knight, because you can synchro with Falcon and you can get yourself an Armades, which is really good in like the mirror or, you know, back row heavy decks and stuff if you can actually get him to hit the board. You can also run Dad. I would not recommend running Dad just because of the fact that it's really hard to kind of pull off in this deck because you fill your graveyard up and you don't really have that much graveyard management. So if you don't open him, chances are it's probably just going to be dead late game. On the other hand, however, if you're running things like the Baby Chaos Dragons, then, you know, you will banish a lot, so you kind of will have like some graveyard management. And you can, you know, tech in like an Eclipse Wyvern to send with Mathematician, you know, just to get access to it really early on to make sure that, you know, it's not going to be a dead card once you've got like 10 plus Shaddoll monsters in your graveyard. Of course, Blackluster Soldier, I would highly recommend running him. You play only light and dark. generally when your lights hit when your light monsters hit the graveyard, you're never gonna ever see them or want to see them again. So Blacklusted Soldier is absolutely amazing. You should run this. You can also run Moral Tax, the artifact. This would mean you'd have to run Sanctums as well. A little bit more of an expensive variant, but Shaddoll artifacts are very good. Definitely works. Personally, I'm leaning more towards the Baby Chaos Dragon variant, but artifacts, you know, add a lot of disruption to your opponent. You can get rid of floodgates with the Moral Attack. And if there's any dead, if you draw any dead in your hand, you can just use it with Shaddoll Fusion. So there is that. You might want to run a couple of Veilers. This is just essentially for the Shaddoll Fusion if you have some left in your deck and you need a light target for Construct. Veiler is good. It's also kind of good to run in the main anyway, just because Shaddoll monsters kind of suffer to effects. So, you know, your Winda's protected from destruction inherently, but you don't want her to get Honor Arced or something, so, you know, it's good to have that Veiler in the hand. But primarily for the fusion. You've also got Attack Defense Changer, AD Changer. So you just send this card from your deck to graveyard. It's really bad to draw. You don't want to draw this guy, but because you can make Construct, you send it to the graveyard, and when he's in the graveyard, you can banish him, and then target one monster in the field, and you can change its battle position. So you can either like set one of your monsters, or like set one of your opponent's monsters, like an Ophion or something. So AD Changer is actually kind of good for that. It's just because it's light is the only reason you'd want to run him, but you know, there is that option, of course. And then, of course, like other lights, Eclipse Wyvern, if you want to get access to your dad really quickly, or maybe if you want to be really crazy and play like Shaddoll Chaos Dragons, then you know Eclipse Wyvern is good for that. Just as an extra light target, yeah, that's why he's in here. One of the kind of more better ones, if you want to run like one Felice, you can go Mathematician, send Felice. She special summons, and you can go to instant level 7. So generally, you can just instantly nuke the field with a Black Rose Dragon. Or you can just fuse her from the hand if she's dead in the hand. For spell cards, you might want to consider in the main deck things like Upstart. You don't really mill, so Upstart isn't really like dead. So you just want to get to your fusion as fast as you can. Your shadow games, just all your kind of good cards like BLS as well. So running 3 Upstart is you know, kind of decent as well if you don't mind paying the life points for it. Well, giving life points for it. You could consider maining Mystical Space Typhoon. A lot of people are fearing Shaddolls and Burning Abyss and just all these kind of graveyard decks, so you might find the occasional person who's maining a Floodgate like Macrocosmos or whatever, so it's good to have like a main deck answer. But generally you want to run MST if you're playing the artifact variant, so you can MST Moral Attacks you've set, which you've, you know, dead drawn. MST is okay in the main deck. I was actually going to consider doing a video soon about whether, you know, it's currently staple in the main deck again. But, you know, this is just suggestions, so feel free to use Mystical Space Typhoon in the main deck for your Shaddolls. Foolish Burial, very, very good choice. You know, turn 1 you can set up your graveyard with like Lizard and, Squamata and Falcon, so he's instantly got a target and you've got a monster on the field and you haven't committed the normal summon. So Foolish Burial, you can use it to send the dragon, pop one of your opponent's back rows, send a Hedgehog to summon something big like dragon, so you can search it out and then summon it, etc. Just really great cards. So Foolish Burial is, you know, really good in the deck as well. Allure, you're playing all darks. If you play a lot of darks, you definitely want to run an Allure, so you can just, you know, banish maybe like a dead beast out of your hand or something. Allure is just really good, so you definitely want to run one. Book of Moon has a lot of synergy in the deck. A lot of people don't like Book of Moon because it's, you know, people like to call it Book of Ned 1, but Book of Moon is pretty decent in this deck. You know, if they attack over one of your monsters, you can set it, you know, and get the flip effect as well. You can also use it to get around things like Trap Done. You can use it offensively to stop their XZ plays or whatever, you know, set their tuner or something. Book of Moon is just a very, very versatile card, but I'm including it in this specifically because I feel that Book of Moon has a lot of synergy with the deck because you can set your own monsters like during your opponent's end phase just to get another flip effect on your turn. So Book of Moon has, you know, that kind of great sort of synergy that you maybe want to consider. Mind Control, another good card. You can use it with Falcon. Take one of their monsters. Pretty much take any monster, like literally any level monster, and there will be something that you can make from your extra deck. So I would really recommend Mind Control. You've also got Super Poly for the mirror match, or against light decks such as Satella Knights or just Bujin, whatever. You can just poly something and make a Shaddoll. The discard effect, however, is a cost, so you won't get your effect if you pitch a Shaddoll monster from your hand. But Super Poly is, at least you run this in the side deck if you don't want to main it. You probably want to main it next format, next set when Mathematician comes up Super Poly target because of the new Earth fusion monster that Shadolls get. So that's an option there. Other choices, Forbidden Lance if you want to protect your guys. Lance is pretty decent in the deck, just because your Wyndham can suffer to things like Deep Prison or Wind Blast and stuff, so it's good to protect Wyndham. You might want to run a couple copies of Soul Charge as well. You can bring back a huge field and bring back Falcon to synchro for a really awesome kind of setup as well. Unbreakable board, bring back your dead Windows and constructs or whatever. So I think that's everything for the spell cards. I'm sorry if I've missed anything. Trap cards, if you're running an Artifact variant, of course you want to run 3 Sanctums. For Breakthrough Skill as well is also a very good card. It's kind of more generic staples I'm mentioning here, but Breakthrough is a good card. Could consider maybe playing that for the mirror match. And then your generic one-offs like Compulse, Bottomless, Torrential, Solemn. Some people don't like for example, Bottomless. Some people don't like Compulse. So play around with these how you feel. I personally would play Compulse this format because of the mirror match. And of course you've got another, what I would consider perhaps staple now is your Vanity's Emptiness. So your opponent goes to Shaddoll Fusion, they go Call of the Haunted on like one of their Satellar Knights, and you can just Vanity's Emptiness. Sitting on a Vanity's Emptiness and a Winda, it's almost always game for a lot of decks, so I mean, it's just such a great card. Another trap perhaps you want to run in the main deck, a Dimensional Prison, just for the mirror match. I keep talking about the mirror match a lot, but honestly that's probably like your biggest competition. Side deck options, a couple spell cards here. Exodia for Evil Swarm. I don't think Evil Swarm is that bad for Shaddolls, honestly, because you can, of course, if you're playing the Baby Dragon variant, you can make a couple rank 4s, blow up the field, bounce the Ophion with Castell. So Exodia, I mean, maybe not necessary, but if you are really struggling with Evil Swarm, you might want to give this a little look. Some twisters if you're already maining Mystical Space Typhoon, just to get rid of floodgates like Defissure, Soul Drain, Macrocosmos, the generic graveyard things. Things that hurt your deck or you want to reuse in the mirror is Nobleman of Crossout. So because all your monsters are flip colon effects, if you use Nobleman on a Shaddoll monster, it's going to banish all of them. So if they Nobleman your Falco, then all your Falcos are gone from your deck. So yeah, this is a good card to use against. It's good in the mirror match as well. Debunk is a good card for you to side because you can't run any of the graveyard floodgates because you need your graveyard yourself. So there's also that option. Imperial Iron Wall. I kind of like this against Evil Swarm because so the chances are they will have like a floodgate, like a banished floodgate, such as Defissure or Macro. So you can use this, but it's not just a counter side because it will stop their main deck because they need to banish to pull off their Kirkion plays. So Iron Wall is good against Evil Swarm. Can't really think of anything else that you'd maybe struggle against that would need this, but this is just some ideas. Needle Sealing is really good if you're playing against any spammy decks, so chances are you're going to have a couple guys set, they're not going to be in danger, so you can just Needle Sealing the field. Malcap, Shaddolls tend to not play too many back row, so if you side this in against decks that are very back row heavy, such as Evil Swarm or I don't know, maybe Hat if that thing is still relevant. So Malcat is a good option there. You might want to side the hands as well. I feel the hands are very, very good side deck choices for any rogue matchups. If you're playing against anything that has a lot of back row, etc., then you're going to take full advantage of your hands. So I'd definitely consider using them. Probably 2 of each. Other side deck monsters, Caius, tribute over one of your guys. banish problem cards. You can also banish himself if you want to burn them for 1,000. I've seen people win games that way. You might want to tribute summon Majesty's Fiends. I'm including some of the tribute summon guys because it is actually really easy for this deck to bring out tribute summons. Just because you set a lot, you special summon set, and then you can flip, then tribute summon over the flip. So bringing out one tribute guy is not actually too difficult, at all. So Majesty's Fiend, that card itself can win games sometimes. And finally, I'm sure there's more, but I've also decided to include Neospatian Grand Mole. So you can include this guy for bouncing problem cards again. Most likely Ophion. I keep talking about Ophion, but I mean I can't really think of anything else that's problematic for you to deal with. Maybe in the mirror you can bounce like Construct or the Fusion Monsters and such, so Grand Mole is actually really decent there. A couple of extra deck cards I think I missed. You can make some 8s in this deck, so you can go Scrap Dragon. Maybe Beals as well. Beals is like, that card can win games on its own sometimes. Mistworm, kind of hard to make because you need 2 non-tuners and it's level 9, so it's a little awkward, but you can make this with like Mathematician, Falcon, and another 4, so like a baby Chaos Dragon. Bouncing 3 cards, especially if they're like extra deck monsters that your opponent has, like it's really, really great. Other level 4s, I think I mentioned them all, but Laval Chain, Digusto Emerald, Castell, Exton, Honor Arc, probably are a few more, but that's all that comes to mind just now. So yeah, have a look at this, take a couple ideas from it, see what you think. So that concludes everything for my Shaddoll guide. I made that as extensive and in-depth yet simple as I could, so if you enjoyed it, please do thumbs up, like, comment, subscribe, etc, etc. Feel free to leave feedback and ask any questions if you feel in the PM. It was really fun making this, so hopefully I can do more guides in the future. I plan to do Burning Abyss just as soon as I can get the time for it. So yeah, again, please do comment, like and subscribe, and thank you for listening.